If you watch the Indiana Fever closely, one thing becomes obvious pretty quickly. Caitlin Clark's assist numbers probably do not fully tell the story of how well she passes the basketball. That might sound strange, because Clark already puts up strong assist totals. She is one of the best playmakers in the WNBA, and every defense that faces Indiana knows she is not just a scorer. She is a passer, a creator, a tempo setter, and the kind of guard who can turn one small opening into an easy basket for somebody else. But even with all of that, there are still moments in almost every game where Clark makes a brilliant play and simply does not get rewarded for it. Sometimes the miss is understandable. Sometimes the pass is difficult to handle. Sometimes the teammate has to catch the ball in traffic, gather, absorb contact, and still finish. Sometimes Clark hits a shooter in rhythm, but the shot is still a contested three or a tough look late in the clock. Those are the normal breaks of basketball. Not every great pass becomes an assist. That happens to every elite playmaker. But what happened against the New York Liberty was different. This was not one of those plays where Clark fired a risky pass into a tight window and asked a teammate to make a miracle finish. This was not one of those moments where the defense recovered at the last second and made the shot harder than it looked. This was not a situation where Indiana had to settle for a rushed attempt. Clark did exactly what a superstar guard is supposed to do. She saw the floor, pushed the ball ahead, and delivered a beautiful pass up the court to Kelsey Mitchell. And Mitchell missed the wide-open layup. That is the kind of play that makes you pause, because Kelsey Mitchell is not some random player being asked to finish a difficult chance. She is one of the best scorers in the league. She has made a career out of putting the ball in the basket. She can score off the dribble, she can hit from deep, she can attack in transition, and she is usually one of the players Indiana trusts most when it needs a bucket. So when Clark gives her that kind of look, you expect 2 points. Instead, the Fever came away empty. Now, to be fair to Mitchell, the layup did come with her offhand. That is the smallest bit of context you can give her. Basketball is fast, angles matter, and even elite players miss shots that look automatic from the outside. No player is perfect. Even the best scorers in the WNBA have moments they would love to take back. But still, that was a brutal miss. And it stood out even more because of what it represented. Caitlin Clark did her job on that play. She created the opportunity. She delivered the ball at the right time. She gave her teammate a clean chance to finish. There was nothing else she could really do except put the ball in the basket herself. And that is not the point of being a great point guard. The whole reason Clark is special is because she does not just score. She bends the defense, reads the floor, and creates easy looks for everyone around her. That one missed layup showed exactly why Clark's impact can be bigger than the box score. She finished the game against New York with 10 points and 9 assists, which means that missed layup may have cost her a double-double. And yes, individual stats are not the most important thing, especially in a loss. Clark would probably trade a double-double for a win every single time. But it still matters because those numbers shape the conversation around her performance. People look at the box score and see 9 assists. They do not always see the pass that should have been number 10. They do not always remember the easy basket that slipped away. That is part of the challenge with evaluating Clark right now. Because her game is so visible, every miss, every turnover, every shot selection debate, and every late game moment gets dissected. But some of her best plays are only half finished because someone else has to complete the possession. If the teammate makes the shot, Clark gets praised for the assist. If the teammate misses, the play disappears from the official numbers. And against the Liberty, Indiana could not afford those empty possessions. The Fever were in a game where details mattered. This was not a blowout where one missed layup meant nothing. Indiana had control for stretches, fought hard, and had a chance to make the game much more interesting late. In a matchup against a team as talented as New York, every easy basket matters. You cannot waste transition chances. You cannot leave points on the floor. You cannot give away the exact opportunities that are supposed to be automatic. That is especially true when the Fever are still trying to build consistency. Indiana has had too many games where small mistakes pile up and become the difference between a win and a loss. A missed layup here, a bad foul there, a missed defensive rebound, a rush shot. a turnover in a key moment. Against elite teams, those small mistakes do not stay small. They become the reason you walk away frustrated. That is why the Mitchell miss became such a talking point. It was not just about one layup. It was about the bigger picture of Indiana needing to capitalize when Clark creates clean offense. Because when Clark is at her best, she makes the game easier for everyone. That is what separates her from players who are only dangerous as shooters. Everybody knows about the logo threes. Everybody knows about the deep range. Everybody knows she can hit shots that most players would never even attempt. That is the part of her game that gets the highlights and the crowd reaction. But the passing is just as important, maybe even more important for Indiana's long-term success. Clark's vision changes the way defenses have to play. When she brings the ball up, defenders have to pick her up early because of her shooting range. That creates space behind the defense. When teams send extra pressure, she can pass out of it. When defenders rotate too aggressively, she can find the open player. When teammates run the floor, she can reward them before the defense gets set. That is exactly what happened on the pass to Mitchell. Clark saw the opportunity early and put the ball where it needed to be. That is high-level point guard play. The problem for Indiana is that high-level passing only becomes winning basketball if the rest of the team finishes the play. Clark can create the advantage, but she cannot complete every possession alone. If she drives and kicks, someone has to hit the open shot. If she pushes the ball ahead in transition, someone has to finish the layup. If she draws two defenders, someone has to punish the defense for leaving them. That is how great offenses work. The star creates pressure, and the team converts that pressure into points. Right now, the Fever are still trying to get to that level consistently. There are moments when the offense looks dangerous and connected. Clark pushes the tempo, Mitchell attacks, Aaliyah Boston gets touches, the ball moves, and Indiana looks like a team that can score with anyone. But there are also moments where the rhythm breaks. Shots do not fall. Players hesitate. Easy chances become empty trips. That is the difference between a team with potential and a team that actually wins consistently. The Liberty game was another reminder that Indiana's margin is not big enough to survive too many wasted possessions. New York is too experienced, too deep, and too skilled. If you give the Liberty extra chances to hang around, they will eventually punish you. If you miss layups, send them to the free throw line and lose control late. They're going to take the game from you. That is exactly what happened. And for Clark, it has to be frustrating in a very specific way. She is already carrying a huge responsibility. She is expected to score, pass, handle pressure, lead the offense, manage tempo, deal with physical defense, and be the face of the franchise every single night. When she makes the right play and it still does not turn to points, that is the kind of thing that can wear on a player. But to Clark's credit, she keeps making those passes. She keeps trusting her teammates, and that part is important. A young star guard cannot let missed shots stop her from playing the right way. If she starts thinking, I have to do everything myself, the offense becomes predictable. If she stops trusting teammates, the ball sticks. If she forces shots because a teammate missed one, Indiana becomes easier to defend. So the answer is not for Clark to stop passing. The answer is for Indiana to keep building the chemistry and confidence needed to finish those plays. Kelsey Mitchell, in particular, is still one of the Fever's most important players. One missed layup does not change that. She is a proven scorer, and Indiana needs her aggression. The Fever need Mitchell to keep running the floor, keep attacking, and keep being a second scoring threat next to Clark. If defenses only have to worry about Clark, Indiana's offense becomes too easy to load up against. Mitchell's scoring gives the Fever balance. But moments like that layup cannot become a pattern. When Clark gives you a clean look, you have to finish. When the Fever get out in transition, they have to punish the defense. When an elite passer creates an easy basket, the team has to take the points. That is how Indiana turns close losses into wins. It also speaks to the ongoing debate around Clark's numbers. Sometimes people look at assist totals and use them as a complete measure of playmaking, but that is not always fair. Assists depend on teammates converting. A player can make the correct read 10 times, but if the shots do not fall, the box score will not fully reflect it. That is why watching the games matters. Clark's playmaking is often better than the final number suggests. The missed layup against New York was one of the clearest examples. If Mitchell finishes, Clark gets her 10th assist, Indiana gets 2 more points, and the possession becomes a highlight of what makes Clark dangerous. Instead, it becomes a frustrating clip of what Indiana failed to capitalize on. Could that one basket have changed the final outcome? Maybe, maybe not. Basketball games are not always that simple. One made layup does not automatically erase everything that happened later. The Fever still had to defend, avoid fouls, execute late, and stop New York's momentum. But in a game that tightened down the stretch, every point matters. Every possession matters. And when you're trying to beat a team like the Liberty, you cannot afford to give away easy ones. That is why the play matters beyond the stat sheet. It captured the tension around Indiana right now. The Fever have enough talent to compete. They have a star guard who can create offense out of nothing. They have another elite scorer in Mitchell. They have front court pieces who can make an impact. They have flashes where everything looks like it is starting to come together. But they also have too many moments where the execution does not match the opportunity. That is what has to change if the Fever want to start stacking wins. It is not enough to say Clark is special. Everyone knows Clark is special. It is not enough to say Mitchell is a great scorer. Everyone knows Mitchell can score. The question is whether Indiana can turn all of that talent into consistent, reliable basketball. The best teams do not just make spectacular plays. They finish simple ones. They do not just hit deep threes. They make layups. They do not just create advantages. They convert them. That is the next step for the Fever. And for Clark, the message is pretty clear. Keep making the right pass. Keep trusting the floor. Keep pushing the pace. Keep creating for teammates. Because even when the finish is not there, those are the plays Indiana needs. Over time, if the Fever are going to become the team they believe they can be, those chances have to turn into points. The missed Mitchell layup was a small moment, but it said a lot. It showed Clark's vision. It showed Indiana's frustration. It showed how close the Fever can be to making the right play and still ending up empty. And it showed why Clark's assist totals, good as they are, might still be underselling what she is doing as a passer. The Fever do not need to panic over one missed layup, but they do need to understand what it represents. When Caitlin Clark creates a gift, Indiana has to unwrap it